Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, and welcome to the 2023 State of the City Address featuring Mayor Bob Burns and City Administrator Sharon Hansen. For those that don't know me, my name is Brett Garrett, President of your Marshall Chamber of Commerce. Before we move on, I'd like to acknowledge a lot of our sponsors for today. First off, our corporate sponsors, Avera Marshall, the Schwann's Company, Schwann's Home Delivery, Bremer Bank, ADM, City of Marshall, Relco, U.S. Bank, Action Companies, Southwest Minnesota State University, and the Marshall Downtown Business Association. Also, thank you to our presenting sponsors, Henley Printing, Northwest Partners, Everspring Inn and Suites, Hoffman and Bropes, Truck Center Companies, Heartland Electric, and Boxcar Win. Thank you for all of your support for this event. I want to recognize some of the non-elected officials, non-city elected officials in the room. A short wave will do when you hear your name. School Board Member Bill Mulso, County Commissioner Rick Anderson, County Commissioner Tom Andrews, and County Commissioner Gary Crowley. I also want to recognize our host, SMSU President Dr. Kumara Jayasuriya. I also want to recognize our Superintendent of Marshall Public Schools, Jeremy Williams, in the back. Thank you for attending. Before we proceed any further, I ask that you please rise, if you're able, for the singing of the National Anthem by Marshall Fire Chief Quentin Brunsvold.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land and of the free, and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Quentin, once again. So again, thank you for attending today. This is the 2023 Marshall State of the City Address. This is the 5th year that we have held this event. We've never not had this event, in fact. This was one of the last events in 2020 before things got shut down. I think the other one was like the Shamrock Shuffle. Between the two, the last two events before we got shut down. In fact, you might remember at 2020, that was the year of the rollout, the new branding rollout. So we shared the stage here with Mayor Burns, Sharon Hansen, and also Glenn Bader from Relco, who was the ringleader for the branding process. So it's just crazy to think that was already 3 years ago. We've come a long ways. In 2021, like I said, we held this event just a month later, but we have not had this event. The Chamber and the city have one thing in common, as we are in it together to help promote the city, and what a great opportunity to do that with the State of the City Address. The State of the City is an opportunity for the city to be transparent with our business community about everything that has happened last year and what you can expect for this year. If you look at it from like a nonprofit perspective, a lot of nonprofits have their annual meetings. This is kind of their opportunity to recap all the good things from last year and what to expect for this year. So I'm excited for 2023. I know I've had some interviews with Sharon and yesterday with Preston here, and there's a lot of cool things coming up here in 2023. So that's enough for me. Let's introduce our presenters. I'd like to introduce Mayor Burns and City Administrator Sharon Hansen. Mayor Burns has served in his 9th term as mayor and prior 6 years as a city council member. Mayor Burns has been a resident since 1979. In 2019, Bob retired from the 40-year career with the University Extension, where he served as statewide director, although he is currently serving as the interim Extension Regional Director for West Central Minnesota. I think he's served as interim a lot over the last 2 to 3 years, by the way. He also serves on the Highway 23 Coalition Board of Directors and is the chair of the MnDOT District 8 Area Transportation Partnership. Sharon has been the city administrator since 2017. She's responsible for the overall management and operation of the city, overseeing the budget, personnel, and its departments. The city administrator also serves as the liaison between the division directors, the city council, and the public. Please help me welcome up Mayor Bob Burns and City Administrator Sharon Hansen.
Before I start, Alex. Okay.
You should be able to push your button right here. No. No?
Okay, how about now? Okay, again, if people have difficulty hearing or anything, be sure to interrupt us. While I'm waiting for, okay, now we should be ready to go.
Yep.
Thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. Thank you to Brad and his staff. They put a lot of work into this. Let's give them a round of applause. One of the discussions Sharon and I had, we had very little disagreement about what this presentation was going to be. The biggest disagreement was who's going to sit where. And, there's 3 chairs here, so, but we're okay. So, once again, thank you to the county board members that are here, Rick and Gary and Tom. A special thank you to President Kumara. We're always grateful for the contributions of SMSU in this community. So. We have several city council members that are here. Former council member John DeKramer is here. Council member Jim Lazinski is here. And then you'll hear later from 2 of the 3 newer council members, John Elkhorn and Steve Mualeski. So with that, we will go ahead and start. You have the clicker or I have the clicker?
I have it.
You're going to control this, right?
I am.
Okay, great. So well, hopefully this will go okay. Well,
We didn't practice.
no, we didn't.
Yeah.
So, but let's start out, I think last year when I was here, many of you were here. One of the points that I made was I showed the picture of the city council, and I made the point that our city council really wasn't reflective of the population of the community. We were all male, we were all white, we're all old. So that has changed. So that's one of the great things that we have. I mean, the old people are still old, but we do have diversity of gender, we have diversity of ethnicity on our city council. And again, we're going to talk about that more later.
Okay. The city has 4 major divisions, and you see a picture there of our division directors. Our public safety director, Jim Marshall, and maybe they could just stand briefly when I mention their name. And I don't know where Jim is at. He must have, thought you maybe got called out. Anyway, and then Jason Anderson, our public works director. E.J. Moberg, our director of administrative services. So we also have other additional staff here as well. We have Preston Stensrud, our park and recreation superintendent. Amy Van Koolen, our administrative assistant, and Dave Parsons, our city assessor. You guys could stand briefly too. Amanda Beckler, our community education coordinator. We have our director of our library, Michelle Leininger, is also with us near the back. Eric Luther, our liquor store manager, who's done a phenomenal job. And we also have our HR manager, Sheila Dubbs, here, who deals with the ups and downs of people, the best and sometimes not the best, and quite, really covers a wide spectrum of employee-related issues. And she is our 2022 Employee of the Year, and I think we should give her an extra round of applause. Really dedicated, talented individuals, and they do jobs sometimes that the general public doesn't want to do, and they work very hard. So appreciate all the staff that we have within the city of Marshall.
So as I mentioned, we have 3 fairly new city council members, and they've gone through kind of a lot of deep dive work as far as getting up to speed and learning all the things that they need to learn. This is a photo from a bus tour that we had last week where some of our key staff really went through some of the details that they'll need to know. And one of those council member, President Pro Tem Craig Schaefer, is there shown on the right. He went through quite a bit of orientation with the new council members. Craig is also President Pro Tem. Craig is not here today, right? So President Pro Tem means if I go down, Craig's in charge, and he's not here. Yeah. So and President Stensrud explained the park system. E.J. Moberg, Director of Administrative Services, talked about all of the financing details, and kind of hiding behind in this bus behind E.J., Scott Truittson gave I won't call it deep dive, but gave an in-depth explanation of the complexity of the wastewater system that we have and the treatment system that we have in the community.
Okay, we usually start off the State of the City with a short video, and we're doing that again this year. You know, last year we were celebrating our 150th. We had a great year, lots of compliments on our celebration in conjunction with Sounds of Summer. So we got a few highlights from that, and then we did some other really cool projects last year, some related to 150 and some just general interactions with the public. So this will be a brief video looking back at a year of celebration. Some proud moments from last year via video and some photographs. So we're going to continue looking back at 2022, and we've got a few slides. I really felt 2022 things were starting to really proceed. We were really farther away from the grips of COVID and the restrictions that was put upon us in 20 and 2021. And so felt like we had some momentum, and we're going to talk about some of those.
We're going to go fairly quickly through.
I don't know what happened, I'm sorry.
Did I lose my sound?
I think he wants you to use some microphone, but we don't know where it's at, Alex, so.
Go ahead, run me.
Oh, okay.
Bear with me for a second, it's all stuck on me.
Okay. Is that have sound? Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And Sharon, last night she texted me and she said, we only have 1 minute per slide, and now we're off time. So I will move along. And we're going to hit on a few of the kind of notable things, and certainly we're not hitting on everything. So apologies if you did a major project and we don't have a picture of it. We're just going to hit on a few of the real notable things in the community, and of course one of those is the kind of the development of what I'll call the former mercantile building that was done by the Nakamas family. You've all seen it. Many of you have been there. The third floor, the upper room, a wonderful event center. The second floor, the corporate offices of Relco in downtown Marshall, which is, again, a wonderful thing. And then the first floor, the reimagined and remodeled and reopened the Atlantic Place. And certainly the representatives of the Nakamas group, including Brian Nakamas and Chef Ronnie, are here. I think we should give them an applause.
I just want to add one thing to that slide, and that is, John Nakamas really was the vision, I think, for this development and all that he did. And we miss him and all the things he did for the city of Marshall. He was committed, and I know Brian is as well. So grateful for your family and obviously for John.
Also, we have Block 100, and I was thinking this morning that Block 100, which formerly we used to call Block 11, now we call it Block 100, this has really been about, this is, for those of you to orientate yourself, this is the Varsity Pub Block. So we spent over 25 years thinking about redevelopment here. Because this morning, as I was kind of ticking through the properties, there was 9 different properties, 9 different parcels that were there. There was 2 buildings that were former warehouses of Marshall Foods. There was Haugie Egg. There was Echo Water. There was Tiny Sharpening. There was Safelite Auto Glass. There was Johnson's Grocery Store. And I'm probably forgetting one. But that was over the years. Then the city knew that we wanted to redevelop those properties because some of them weren't being used anymore. Some of them were misowned or misplaced or really didn't belong in downtown Marshall. So, but in order for development to happen, we needed to assemble those all so that one developer could come in, and that's really what has happened. So over the years, we have acquired all those properties, and now Caldwell Fisher is in the final stages of constructing the first of what will be 3 buildings on that. This, the building that we see now, I believe there's 36 units of apartments that are in there. It's all apartments. The next 2 will be retail office on the main floor and then apartments on the second and third floor.
Total development about $12 million. This current building that you see is valued at $4 million. So City Council did a great job supporting this project, and Lauren Deitz seeing it through, and we hope to see bigger things come with Block 100.
There was also quite a bit of housing, and we in that last photo you saw the multifamily housing, the apartments. There was 12 single-family houses, homes that were constructed, and we'll probably see less homes this year just because interest rates are higher. But there is already activity with single-home family development in the community.
Yeah, slightly down from 2021, but if you look back 3 or 4 years, we're almost double with the amount of housing we had in 2022. Avera Marshall, one of our largest employers in the region and in the city of Marshall, has done a lot of work remodeling their current hospital on the 4th floor. And they were able to rejuvenate and renovate the Bruce Street property. It'll now be adult and occupational therapy. You see the therapy pool right there. I'm sure they'll have a ribbon cutting an event to really mark that space. But healthcare and what they provide to our community is so critical, and they do a really great job. Get some really good physicians. We know that their clinic space is really busting at the seams, and we're grateful for their leadership and their staff and all they've done for our community.
And we've had some new businesses or relocated businesses in the upper corner. That's somewhat of a distant picture, but that's Border States Electric, relocated to a brand new building. That's a business that serves regional needs, chose to build in Marshall. They could have been anywhere really in the region, chose to build here mainly because of the community and the employee base that they have here. Directly under there, you want to talk about North Central
North
International?
Central, you know, another example of retaining the businesses we have along with Border States is they spent over $1 million renovating the exterior and interior portions of their building. Really another critical business for Marshall, considering we're really a trucking hub here in the city.
And the other, right below that, Baldwin Distribution, again, a fairly new business in the community that's serving other businesses that are in industries in the community.
Yep, and they moved into the former Moldberg Truck Center, if you kind of know where that is, in northern part of the city. So we also had Well Suite, and I know they just had a chamber event this past week that was a new business. And who doesn't need a siesta sometime during the day? I think this is a perfect business for us. And then to the left is Sabor, a new Mexican restaurant that's in the Legion. And I think they've got some plans to do some bigger and better things. And I don't know if you want to follow up on the quilt shop. I can certainly do that. But, you know, a great addition to downtown Main Street. We obviously know there was some transition there, and a little concern about what was going to fill that space, but we're really, really helpful to have that really a typical mom and pop shop in downtown Marshall.
And we also have ADM, and I believe we have ADM represented here. Yes. So the ADM, you know, not only celebrated their 120 years as a company, but they're also celebrating in Marshall. It did add the $30 million starch expansion, which really shows the kind of how innovative and adaptive that company is. Just me or just
Try, third one's got to be a charm.
Okay. How about that? Okay. Okay. So what I was talking about was ADM and the importance of the community in the community. They went through major expansion this past year, and I always think of the importance that ADM has on the agricultural community. The large purchaser of corn, they grind roughly up to 200,000 bushels of corn every day, and that's corn that's produced in this area and then processed in this area. So thank you, Eric, and your team, and I look forward to more good things and continued presence in the community. So the hotel land development, for many years there's been discussion about a hotel adjacent and in proximity to the Red Baron Arena. Many of the sports groups have been anxious for this over the years, so there is that now. The land has been acquired, and we would anticipate that as the group goes through lots and lots of planning, that hopefully sometime this year, an 83-room hotel will be under construction there.
Yeah, we hear a lot from our sports association and actually even just families for when they're planning events about the need for additional hotels. It really limits us in the type of events we can have. And this has been a long process, and I know the city's been trying to get something going there. And we also have local investors who've teamed up with this group from Northfield to make it happen, so we're appreciative of our local investment group as well. Lyon Murray County CEO program, creating entrepreneurial opportunities. There's a great article in the Marshall paper about this, and actually hit really all the key points I was going to share, which is they have 18 students. It was really led by our Marshall School District and Beth Ritter and the superintendent and staff there, and just a really great program for the area. And we also had, again, support from our local businesses, you know, about close to 50 businesses donated, along with Southwest Initiative Foundation, to make it happen. And I know that some of our businesses have been helping them in mentorship and providing speakers to the group. And we're really looking forward to what these young people will provide to us in the future. and the Marshall School District too as well. You know, next year we're probably going to be talking about their Career Technical Education Center as well as they get that off the ground. So.
And of course, we anticipate there already is development. We anticipate quite a bit more development on College Drive this year. You have the former gas station Speedway that will become Quick Trip. Down the street from there, Dollar General was constructed this past year. Up the street will be Family Dollar, which will be constructed. Farther up the street will be, or is, the Habitat for Humanity Restore that will be opening sometime in March. Farther up the street will be the new Mike's Cafe. It may have a different name, but the new Mike's Cafe. Across the street, then the former gas station where Domino's will move to. And I'm probably forgetting some things, but the point is there's a lot of activity that is and will be happening on College Drive.
Yeah, we hear a lot about the need and the want for a Quick Trip, and we're just thankful to have it in our community. And I know that part of the community too, they'll serve those residents really well with the different offerings that they have in terms of produce and grocery items as well.
And of course, the long anticipated and much hoped for redevelopment of the Shopko property. Lauren Deitz is up here in the front, and she has really had many contacts, done a lot of legwork, and it's really great to see that the Shopko development actually happened. So Harbor Freight, of course, it's been announced that they will take roughly a third of the building, and then we anticipate that there'll be 2 other retailers that will take the other 2/3. It won't be the same retailer. They'll be separate retailers, and hopefully there'll be announcements of that can be made over the next few months. And while this isn't something that is being built, this was significant for the community because the community has been working to clean up the Helena property that's out on Highway 19. It's in the airspace, so it was a hazard for aircraft coming in. So it was actually a requirement, FAA, that we remove it. It also involved some cleaning up of contamination from the prior use, fertilizer and chemical. That has largely been accomplished now. It does open up some possibilities because there is a rail spur there, and so we are looking at other possibilities of utilizing the portion of that property that can be utilized that's outside of the FAA zone.
Yeah.
FAA meaning Federal Aviation Administration.
This has nothing to do with airport or business, but on a personal note, I'm really glad when I'm on the 14th hole, I do not have to look at that building anymore. It was not a pretty looking building, so credit to the City Council again and our staff for really pushing this through and improving the look of that area, and then of course for our airport safety.
So, those were all private development. Now we're going to talk about some community development. And in the video, the iconic M that was shown, as well as the reconstruction of the trails and paving them in concrete around Independence Park, widening them so that events like Light Up the Night can traverse through there. And then at the opposite side of the screen, the accessible playground. This is at Legion Field. There'll be another accessible playground set of equipment that will be installed at Independence. We think this is important that all of our facilities are accessible to all, young and old.
Yeah, and Preston and Amanda in our Community Services Department has done a great job getting outside sources of revenue. The M sculpture was a grant-driven project, so we didn't spend a lot of local dollars on it. And then Preston is really great at establishing those community relations, and I believe for the inclusive playground at the Legion Field, it was donated. Again, so another opportunity for us to really highlight the investment that our local business and individuals make to our community. We have a picture of Terrace 1872 in the middle. We're going to be really proud of that project as well. Again, another project where there wasn't such a great looking property between City Hall and Mainstay, and the City Council took the initiative to create this space. Will hopefully be completed this year. We obviously had Preston's staff do most of the foundation, and you know, we've got a lot going on downtown this coming year, which the mayor will talk about a little bit in terms of construction, but we hope to have some events throughout the year. Quentin Brunsvold has committed to maybe singing, right, the Q&Q, and get some good vibes going down there. One other thing I didn't include on the slide, but I know you can speak off the cuff on this, is we did a lot of tree replacement for community development as well in 2022.
Yeah, the tree replacement was part of a grant that we received from the state in anticipation of emerald ash borer. Preston, where there was 100 and how many? 113 trees were removed, and then that means that 226 trees were planted to replace. And the trees that were removed, and I believe there was 5 of the local contractors that removed the trees in 5 different parks in the community. And they were all they're all ash trees. They all will succumb to emerald ash. And the goal is that when emerald ash borer does arrive, that we have some of these new trees that have a good start. So it won't be so dramatic when all of those trees die.
Okay, now we're going to take a look at projects and priorities for the year ahead. And really like this photo because I think Marshall is one of the greatest places to have when you look for the horizon, and we've got a lot of things coming on the horizon, and will be limitless going into the upcoming year.
So Sharon already mentioned 3rd Street and Lion Street reconstruction. This has been planned for a number of years. And the City Council is expected to receive the bids on their meeting next Tuesday. And if the bids, and there's a if there, if the bids are affordable, then this will be a 2023 project. But we describe this project with adjectives like generational and transformative because 3rd Street will change. 3rd Street, of course, has a number of small shops and boutiques, and it's really kind of an attractive thing for shopping. So the redesign, the reconstruction will change that a bit. It'll be one way. It'll have kind of a plaza feel to it, so it will be customer friendly. And then Lion Street, all the way from Horvath Funeral Home, Holy Redeemer Church, over to College Drive will also be reconstructed. And you may say, boy, that's right by the post office, and it's right by the theater, and won't that be disruptive? And you would be absolutely right. This will be a disruptive project this summer. But again, it's one of those projects that's done once in a generation. It'll also be, in addition to what's above ground, the infrastructure underneath will be a 50-year infrastructure that will accommodate changes that will happen in the community. In addition to that, the parking lot will be the Addison parking lot, which is across from the movie theater. That will also be replaced at the same time.
Okay, the Aquatic Center, I'll just start off, and I know you have a lot to add to this because you've been working on the legislature side on making some things happen, but we've been talking about this for many, many years. And just to kind of highlight some of the key factors, it's a totally deficient current aquatic center that we have. It loses about 12,000 gallons a day. And the original pool was constructed in 1937 to 38. So for those that are really trying to figure out how old that is, that's an 86-year-old pool that we're still trying to use for our community. And we have ADA deficiencies, no zero depth. And so, you know, lots of community support for this. We've done some feedback surveys where Parks and Recreation is a highly supported amenity that the city provides. We've been talking about a source of revenue is in terms of sales tax, and I'll have Bob add to this, but really, you know, 75% support for us to fund this aquatic center. And then I just want to add, you know, a lot of times we talk about summers in Marshall and the need to have some kind of water feature, water amenity. Well, I think this can kind of fill some of those needs. While everybody else is fighting traffic in Alexandria, you go ahead. We're going to try to build this, keep some of our residents here, and have something that we can enjoy right here in Marshall. So.
We view this as a regional asset, and we have strong support from communities around our area in the region too. We've been careful about the design to not only have it affordable, although it is a big ticket item, but also to be attractive, so it will be that regional asset. The steps that we go through for financing this, we made the determination early on that if it was solely on property taxes, that wouldn't be possible. That would be about a 20% increase in the property tax levy, which would not take into account all the other needs in the community. So that's really unacceptable. So the most appropriate way would be use of sales tax. We have a current sales tax, and that was passed by the voters for the construction of the Red Baron Arena and the Merit Center. We're approaching the end of the time for collections on that. So our proposal is that the sales tax would be extended at the very same level, not an increase, to pay for the new aquatic center. The process we go through is that the legislature has to authorize us to be able to go to a referendum vote of the public. So that's what we're working on right now, is we're requesting the legislature, we've had 2 or 3 hearings already, give us the permission to go to the people so that they can decide. If that passes, and if I take a step back, it was ready to go last year and it was included in the tax bill, but there was no tax bill. So we really had to start over this year. If it passes this year, and we're hopeful it will, our request is that we have a referendum vote November of 23, assuming that would have the support of the voters. Construction would begin in 2024. It would be on a different location. The advantage of the different location would be, one advantage would be that the current pool, if it is still usable, could be used while the new aquatic center was under construction. But there's other advantages. It's a better location, the new location, it's more visible, larger, parking is better, safety is better, and so we would look forward to the new location.
And we're currently working with Schwann's on this location. And some of you may have heard where we're looking at, but it's right adjacent to their corporate headquarters.
Yeah, and we're very, very grateful of the cooperation we've had from the Schwann's company on this property.
Okay, another thing we have, and I know the mayor talked about some development on East College Drive. We've heard some requests in past several years about focusing in on other parts of the city, and maybe that East College Drive needs a little attention in terms of assistance and economic development funds. So recently we were awarded a Main Street Revitalization Grant. This is a Minnesota DEED grant. We had Southwest Initiative Foundation do a lot of cheerleading for this particular fund and getting this grant for us. It's going to be in the amount of $644,000. It'll provide cost share to those on East College Drive, and that's from Main Street going east, on doing some renovation construction projects. The cost share is at a 30% level. At a maximum of $75,000, and I know our EDA director has had really good interest so far. She's going to get more information out about that grant as we speak. I know that she's ready to go in terms of having meetings. So, if you wanted to add anything to that.
And this past year, the city did adopt our new comprehensive plan, and this is really a 20-year document. Our former comprehensive plan, while it had been updated a few times, was more than 20 years old. So the comprehensive plan is really a planning document that lays out the foundation of where the community is and where it's going to go in the future. And as you look at kind of this aerial photo or map of the community, I think we've benefited from over the past 50, 75 years that Marshall is a pretty well-planned community. The residential is in one part of the community, industries in another part of the community, commercial, is so things aren't interspersed in between and you have inappropriate uses. So we're building on that as the community grows over the next 20 years. Where will that growth happen? And then how can the infrastructure be in that area so it can accommodate that growth? The next steps then, so the city council did adopt a comprehensive plan. There's a number of action steps that will take place over the next years, and that's the point that we'll be at this year and probably in the next 5 to 10 years is implementing some of those action steps.
I think that was a really good explanation. So I do think what some people may see when they're doing development is changes to our planning and zoning map. We've had some challenges in the past with certain types of uses in certain parts of the city. Kind of a new term you'll see in the comprehensive plan implementation that the city council will consider is mixed use. Again, we talked about block 11 with businesses and residential being in one property. There could be some other variations, and we think this gives the city and our developers a little more flexibility on future development.
And last year I talked about one of the challenges that we had, and that was the 2020 census. And I'm not going to repeat what I said last year, but the reality is that our census numbers are inaccurate because the census took place April 1st, 2020. The shutdown from the pandemic started about 2 weeks prior to that. So that meant that one specific example was that the SMSU housing dormitories and the foundation housing weren't counted. So we did appeal that. It was a long process, and recently, within the last month, we were notified by the census that they did approve our appeal. So that's the good news. The downside is that they also told us that they couldn't share our new number with us because of data privacy. So we're working with our congressional offices to change that. So we know that our number is wrong. We know that the Census Bureau agrees with that. Now the next step is we're going to figure out what that actual number is. So.
I remember when the census was released and Deb Gao interviewed you, and the first thing you said is these numbers are wrong. And I think a credit to you and your leadership in this area about really pushing staff to work through this appeal, and it validates what you originally said when the census was revealed.
I'd also like to thank the SMSU staff because they were cooperative on kind of getting us, what were the real numbers in, maybe March 1st of 2020.
Yeah, right. So additional priorities, we wanted to talk about indoor recreation study, which the council approved last year. And we've got a lot of great facilities in the city of Marshall, the school district, SMSU, and some of our city facilities as well. And one would think, don't we have enough? Well, not really, we don't. And we're a very active community. We've got successful sports associations, successful school district teams. I mean, they win championships year after year, as an example. So there's a lot of interest in really fitness and recreation. And again, this gets back to having an opportunity for our residents to have something to do. So the city wanted to look into this. We have the YMCA, who is a very important community asset, and we really want to support them in some way. We think and know, just based on some conversations with YMCA, they're 20 years old this year, and they need some capital investment. And how can they do that in the current climate? They face some challenges as well. So we partnered together on this study, and I think we'll be validated in some initial thoughts, which is we probably need more indoor recreation space. The timing of this, I think, could take some time. We know other communities who have looked at indoor recreation, and it's been a 10-year process. That could happen to Marshall, but we really wanted to start looking at how do we meet the needs of the community. We don't know how SMSU will partner at this point, but we want to be a partner with them. And I know that Jen Flowers, our athletic director, and our Park and Recreation Superintendent, Preston Stenzer, has done a lot of really good conversation recently about things that they're trying to get off the ground. And so I think this will be a great thing for the future.
We also recognize workforce recruitment is a challenge for all of us. And there's a number of different efforts on workforce recruitment that the public is involved in, the private sector is involved in. One of the things I talked about last year that we're still working on, our Southwest Council of Mayors is working on a workforce development program that would basically mirror a program that is in South Dakota, where young people that are looking for, or wouldn't have to be young, but individuals that are looking at learning a trade that is offered or could be offered at Southwest Minnesota Technical College could go there, and then if they stay in that trade in the region for a minimum of 3 years, their tuition is free. That received very good support in the legislature last year. Unfortunately, the jobs bill there was no jobs bill, so we're working on exactly the same with probably some modifications that are improvement to the bill. And then finally on the list, it's 2023, and no meeting would be complete if we didn't talk about THC and marijuana. So we know that one of the things that the legislature did last year was pass some unfinished legislation, and that was to allow the sale of THC-enhanced food and beverages. We put a moratorium on the sale of that in the community in July because there was no guidelines as far as manufacturing, distribution, sale, enforcement that accompanied that legislation. And the hope was that we'd wait, we can have that moratorium on for 1 year, and by the time that year had expired, that the legislature would have some of those guidelines so that we could put it in place, but do it in a reasonable and safe manner. This year, that's all been rolled into the recreational marijuana bill, and so we have been working through the League of Minnesota Cities. I'm on their task force about what local control should we have. Should communities at their choice be able to opt out if they want? Should they have some limitation on the number of retailers? Should they have some control of place and space, meaning zoning as well as how it's retailed within the retailer, like is it behind the counter, or how do you verify 18 years of age? So we would expect that there'll be a lot of activity that we will then need to respond to this year. So then as we kind of wrap up here, as I think back to this past year, summer started out, late spring and summer started out with a derecho. We had this huge wind event that brought this massive, and this is a photo from Marshall. You can tell it's from Marshall. Jim Swenson's trailer is right there in this picture, but brought this massive dust storm with dust all the way from Nebraska, and then that was then followed by a drought, and then that was followed by record snowfall that we still see today. So there's been changes, but the community has thrived through all the changes. And one of the reasons, advance one more, is that we are a hopeful community. We are optimistic. One of the reasons that, again, I'm optimistic, and this is maybe how we're going to end this presentation before we get to questions, is I'm optimistic because as I look at our council, we really have 3 new qualified and very talented council members that join a very good council. So with that.
What are my goals for 2023 for the City of Marshall? First of all, to work on some of the projects that have already in the works. That would include the aquatic center that's in being voted on and being finalized to have some say in how that's going to play out. The 3rd Street and Lion Street reconstruction that's coming up, to be involved as much as I can with that as I learn more and more, because that's the one thing I will have to do this first year on the council, is to learn and understand a lot better what the city of Marshall's needs are, and to understand how they all interact with each other.
For 2023 and the future, the things I'm looking forward to in Marshall is the progression of the Aquatic Center, all the new businesses that are going to be coming to Marshall, and for Marshall to continue to be a diverse and accepting community for anybody who comes here or is here right now.
My hope for 2023 is to see continued growth and progress with new and existing businesses in town. I look forward to watching the progression of Block 11, and I also hope to see an opportunity for some affordable housing as well. Last, I look forward to a referendum vote this fall that will allow us to continue the planning of an aquatic center for our city.
And thank you, everyone, for your attendance today. Thank you for what you all do in the community. We're open for questions.
Your 4 mics going on here. All right, who's got some questions? Who has a note card that maybe is filled out that I can help read for them? But I have some questions. We had about 6-7 minutes for questions this afternoon. Don't be shy.
We answered.
All right, we got
We answered. We covered it all.
yeah.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, Phil Bicey, just curious if we understand or have a understanding of the impact of work from home and how that's impacted the community. There's pros in that there's people working here for companies that aren't here. There's cons that certain people aren't coming into the community, shopping, et cetera, using the services. Has that been, what kind of impact do we see? And is that something we could take advantage of here in the future?
Sorry, mic drop.
Thanks, Phil. And that, you know, I mean, that's a question that probably everyone grapples with. You know, on the one hand, you know, yes, whether it's a employer that has 550 employees in the community, but 400 of them, you know, can work at home. You know, we always have concerns about that. On the other hand, as you rightly say, there's a lot of people that work in Marshall, and because of the technology that's available and the Wi-Fi capacity, they can do work where, but for that, or if they were required to be at work, they couldn't be in the community. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, and I know every employer is grappling with that, my employer included. So, you know, while we would like to give employees flexibility because we need to keep them happy so that they stay as our employees. On the other hand, you know, there is something to be said for at the workplace and working together, and, you know, actually know that you're part of a team. So I don't know if there's a good answer to that. I mean, you know, as I'm going to look at the Schwann table right now. I mean, it's for us. I mean, it's gratifying to see the parking lot full again. I mean, that says something about them, but I know other employers, you know, maybe want to offer more flexibility. So, long way of not answering your question at all.
I just want to add to that as well. Oh, do you want to? I can hold that. Yeah. You know, it's kind of a tough position to be, because if you want to promote the hybrid, you could possibly get some in-migration from some of the more congested areas of the state, and we certainly want to promote that because we like the area that we live in. We like the space that we have, and the fact that we can get from one side of the town to another in 3 minutes, and you're not going to be able to do that in Sioux Falls, for example. and maybe Alexandria on a summer day. I just want to throw that in again. But I do think some of the best ideas are spurned by the random interactions you have with your coworkers, whether it be in the hallway or the break room. And if you want to really spur innovation, and I think some of our leading companies in the city of Marshall have really looked hard at that. They realize you got to build that human relationships that you have with each other. And so I think we'll come back where in the office may not be 100% of the time, but most of the time will probably happen again. And we've seen that with companies across the nation. And there's resistance, obviously, from employees, and it's been challenging. But I think it's needed for the next best thing that our companies and private sector are producing. So.
Okay, we have time for about one more question before we wrap it up. Okay. All right, well, thanks again, City Administrator Sharon Hansen, Mayor Bob Burns. Please give it up for them. Quick shout out to Desiree from our chamber staff. She put on a great event today. We have a couple other staff. Shelby did all of our marketing. Bonnie collects your money, most importantly. And speaking of CEO students, we have our intern over there. Her name's Taylor, and she's one of those CEO students that Sharon mentioned earlier. So she is kind of learning a few things here today as an event intern. So thanks to everybody here. Thank you all for attending. It is a good event. I'm excited for 2023. One more quick plug. If you don't have your coupon book yet, we still have a few of those here too. We give you at the front table. So thanks again for coming, and enjoy your rest of your day.